And on the bottom right, he's teamless now, but he's a fantastic player. It's GuMiho.
And his opponent, spawning up at the top left for Team Abydos. It is Cure. Oh my goodness. Talking about builds, talking about standard versus weird. We've got ourselves a command center first in TVT. That is absolutely wild.
And it's from
because this matchup, if you get away with this, you get a ludicrous lead. But the chance of getting away with this is so small.
Yeah, and it's from Cure no less, right? Like, we go into this and we're like, okay, Cure is gonna do Barracks Double Gas Factory Expand every single game. He is the distillation of the system Terran, of a Korean Terran, and then GuMiho's the one that's gonna do something weird. Meanwhile, the game is GuMiho doing Barracks Double Gas Expand, and Cure is, hold my soju, hold my beer. We're gonna go and we're not gonna have any defense for our natural, but we're gonna get it up very quickly.
Yeah, and the big thing about this is that a lot of Terran players, in order to cut corners, in order to get further ahead, while you're playing super safe, they will do things like not SCV Scout, which GuMiho has not. And he might not even send this Reaper past the halfway point of the map. We'll see in a moment. No, he's just going to turn right. Yeah, he's just looking around. He's like, okay, you proxy barracksing me? No? Okay, cool. We're chill. Nothing out of the ordinary in this game. Meanwhile, you've got Cure over here snickering in the corner because he just went into the teacher's desk and he just stole all the Tootsie Rolls out of there and he's just gobbling them down. And GuMiho's just like, man, I sure hope when the teacher gets back there, all the Tootsie Rolls are there so I don't get blamed for it. Too late.
Drop a third base. Come on, Cure. You know you want to. Okay, he's not. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The mind games out of this setup where it is scary to run a Reaper across, do something like that, because you can get caught out, you can lose everything, and then it snowballs the other way. It's working absolutely in Cure's favor here. And Steadfast, there's no starport on the way. There's a second barracks, and there's the starport. So it feels like out of this, we're going to have this early game, this heavy cash infusion that Cure has to work with, right? Very quick orbital. And instead of turning it into more tanks or something like that, this is going to be a lot of Marines on the map. It's probably going to be a quick stim. And it seems like we're going to have some pretty heavy drop pressure finding its way pretty early onto the map.
Potentially, that's what I was thinking at first, but he is playing this out kind of quote-unquote normally as you would in a TVT. He's getting the Cyclone. I thought he was going to switch the barracks onto this and just do a straight CC first power 2-on-1, but it is going to be at least one Cyclone. We'll see in a moment if he switches this off and starts up Stim, or if it is going to be, okay, it's going to be tank production. So he's actually not too worried about Stim for the moment. It should be Raven production for now. But like I said, Cure has gotten away with ludicrous greed. The orbital command just finished. It is a 7-worker lead, and nothing has happened.
This income graph is kind of disgusting, and it's actually just going to get worse. But the key thing here, Steadfast, is I guess the part of this, we look at that second barracks and we say, oh, okay, it felt like a drop maybe. It seems more than anything, actually, kind of looking at this a little bit further, is Cure sacrificed a lot of early game production to be able to get to where he is, right? The barracks is slower, the factory is slower, the starport obviously also slower. So if you want to make sure you can defend properly, one thing you can do is just get a second barracks and say, yeah, okay, yep, my barracks is going to be slower, but I can have 2 of them, and that will allow me to bring my army supply back up into a somewhat of a stable position. Actually, fairly quickly. And at this point, you're right. Army supplies are somewhat equal. The Marine count is more than enough to defend. And what's Cure doing? He's not going for the 4-minute third base, but he is going for the 5-minute one. And the rich just get richer.
That they do. I mean, you just have so many more resources to work with when you get a kind of economic advantage like this. Now, this scan comes in from GuMiho, and I think it's going to be a confusing scan, if anything, because he's going to look at this. Okay, this is really interesting. So I just checked his vision. He sees a tech lab producing. He sees the 3rd command center on the way. He sees the reactor finishing, and he sees a reactor that's attached to something. For all he knows, that could even be a second starport. He doesn't actually know what this is, but he is going to go for a bit of a push right here.
Yeah, that scan did seem to trigger aggression. It seems like he at least saw enough to say, okay, my opponent's being very, very greedy here. So the Ravens, they're going to look to run forward. And this is 3 Ravens steadfast. This is a lot of breaking pressure. So the 2 tanks are going to get shut down pretty much immediately. But actually, they're faking it. They're biding time. The tanks, of course, of GuMiho, not in range just yet. And here's what GuMiho wants. He wants Kir to either commit to keeping the tanks there and then he can get the shutdowns, or B, he wants the presence of the Ravens to force the unsiege, at which point he moves forward. None of those are happening right now because the tanks aren't scary enough. Not yet, and Kir has bought the time that he needs. 8 seconds on stim. We're gonna see a big surround coming on in, and actually, as I say that, he's running across the map. Okay, there's only 1 tank defensively here.
That there is. This has been a big 2-base commitment coming in from GuMiho. Kir scans the natural expansion. Oh, and he's going to hesitate. He's not going to go for it. Meanwhile, Liberator moving on forward will grab a bunch of tanks. We do see 1 Raven going down on the other side of the map. Vikings are out. So GuMiho with these Liberators, this was an optimistic play that Kir would not add on Vikings. But now that he has... Oh, well, I mean, these tanks are still in position, but GuMiho is going to have to use scans in order to do this. Now, we do see on the other side of the map, well, I guess on the other side of this concave, the Marines come on up. Liberators do siege up. Oh, Kir, no, don't get... Ooh, we just lost like 3 of his flanking Marines. That may not seem like a lot, but it is actually a pretty big deal. GuMiho behind this 3rd command center is on the way, but Kir, he wants to break this as... Well... He wants to break this pretty darn soon. Yeah,
Kir's 3rd command center is done, but we do have to point out that GuMiho is finally... Oh, this Viking positioning. 1 Liberator will fall. Kir has lost the economic lead. Right, okay, so yes, 3rd CC, but he's down 6 workers, and he can't mine out of that 3rd base anyways, so... It's getting awkward now. The one advantage that seems like Kir is waiting for just a little bit. Combat shields are done in 5 seconds. You add in an additional 20% HP.
No way.
On this army. But okay,
he's smuggling these tanks to the front line.
Okay, but here comes the break right now coming in from both sides. More tanks are going to siege up. Are they there in time? It seems like absolutely they are. And the tanks in the high ground, they get disabled. So Kir kind of affects the break. Yeah, he does. But that was a lot more expensive than it seemed like it was ever going to be. So actually, you know, maybe I hate this less. It was looking really good for GuMiho, and then Kir, that kind of the 2nd round of his reinforcements found their way in. And GuMiho never built an orbital. He has that 3rd command center done for quite a while now, and he's just lacking on the mules. He's lacking on the scans.
He is, but more importantly, it's the army supply right now that's the big problem.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How is GuMiho ever going to move out and secure his 3rd base at this point? He simply doesn't have the units to do so. I mean, there's no Marines on the map. There are literally 0 Marines on the map right now for GuMiho. Kir, if he just goes for it, it's game. And he spreads the tanks brilliantly. Perfect spread on those tanks. They are going to get into a great position here. We will see the siege tank of GuMiho coming on forward, and it will be able to grab a little something. Oh, very nice. Oh, the splash damage, though. It is deadly. Kir spreading these tanks once again, but it's the lack of Marines. What can you do with no Marines?
You can hold on to that tank for quite a while here, but the problem is it's not even I can't believe this tank's still alive.
Yeah, Kir flubbed that, actually. There was 7 Marines that were about to move forward and stim and kill it, and he just didn't. They just didn't move forward.
Yeah, again, the big problem, right, is the 17 workers that go down, so the economic lead back in Kir's favor. We're seeing just how powerful stim and combat shields and all these wonderful things are. The big issue, though, on top of everything else, is that, well, Kir lost vision. He lost his medevac very quickly. That air superiority meant that it was very hard for Kir to push in, but Steadfast, even still, what are we at? That's a 14 worker advantage. It's an army supply lead, +1 to +0. Armor's going to be done, so it's going to be 1-1 versus 1-1. There is no combat shields. It's just him. In fact, GuMiho isn't even getting combat shields. He can't afford it right now. So, yeah, Kir flubbed that push. Absolutely. It gave GuMiho maybe a slim path. He's got to walk a knife edge back into this game, but he does have that knife edge to walk now.
And I do want to give credit to GuMiho. That repair on the tank completely saved him. Without that repair, he's probably GG'd out by now. So very impressive that he was able to do anything at all. And you talk about stylistic differences. GuMiho, it's really his decision making under pressure that is oftentimes what differentiates his TVT so much. We are going to see a single medevac drop coming across the map, and you might be saying, oh, well, I mean, single medevac, that's pretty underwhelming. And it's, well, yeah, it is. But he can afford to do more. He absolutely cannot afford to do more. Cure checks on the base, sees that it's still not landed. GuMiho, he knows he needs to do so much with this drop. Realistically, he knows he needs to do more than he can.
Yeah, although, in fairness, Steadfast, you say it's only one drop. What can it get done? As I was going to stim forward here. They get the Liberator. Heavy damage, though. The point is that Cure's moving everything onto the other side of the map. So this drop, man, I would have loved to see him stim into the mineral line just a little bit more. 6 workers go down. He's going to get a sensor tower as well, unlocking drop pressure later on, maybe a little bit. And it's something. But, yeah, he could have easily gotten 10 to 12 workers there. The problem was he just kind of... I guess he wasn't sure of like tank positioning maybe, so didn't want to quite stim into the mineral line and lose everything. But now he does have his third base up here. Air superiority pretty solidly in GuMiho's favor as well, and that does unlock an opportunity to kind of slow push forward when your opponent doesn't have vision, knock tanks down, and start to unlock things. But now there's another problem that GuMiho has to deal with. He doesn't have to. He has not been able to afford it at all.
He's not getting it. He's not getting it. He has not been building SCVs for quite some time right now. He is setting up to try and go for one big all-in shove. And you might be saying, oh, they're on 3 bases. They have 5 racks. How are they all in? Well, when you don't build SCVs, when you don't build anything, that is what makes this an all-in. We are going to see the counterattack on the other side of the map. There's no tank siege. And Cure actually built quite a few Marauders. I'm kind of puzzled as to why he did, but he's gonna pay a little bit for it. GuMiho, though, he's still not going to be able to get enough done, I don't think. It's a good little counterattack.
He lost the third orbital.
Went down at the third. Yeah, oh, I know.
Okay.
Actually, I was building that as just, yeah.
Sorry.
It's, well, this is the only way that GuMiho was going to win the game, and he wasn't able to do it.
No. Sorry, I don't mean to slow your roll. I'm like, well, you know, yeah, that's great. He kills things, but yeah, the third base is in fact dead. So that big surround Steadfast is not going to happen. Like, you don't... At this point...
Well, most importantly, now the 2-2 is done in, like, about 20 seconds?
15. Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of Marines in the main base, but they're about to get found out here as well. No medevacs to heal them. There's not in position, so... Is it hard for Cure to crack a 2-base Terran? Absolutely. Is that just kind of what we're waiting on? Yeah. He's got 4 bases now to the 2 bases of GuMiho. GuMiho's going to fight as long as he can because you do not want to go down into the lower bracket here, but it's game 1, and... Yeah,
there's no point in staying in this game at this point. It's 4 bases to 2. Every move you've made, I actually really appreciate. I really like that he tried to do that elevator maneuver, and I think it was actually a really good idea with the counterattack, and then trying to go for the flank was nice as well. But look, he's literally dropping into a planetary fortress. There we go. He realizes it's 4 bases, and he's going to tap out. GG gets called. Well played by Cure.
Yeah, and I love this. Again, we'll go into this with the narrative of, oh, Cure, the standard Terran, the meta player. He does what anyone else does, and he just tries to do it a little bit better, and then he pulls a CC first on us. When was the last time you saw that in a TVT?
I'm going to tell you. I've referenced him a lot in this. It was Thermal. During his, I'm going to do X build during a $400 tournament, and it was up against Juggernaut Jason, and it was the exact same thing. It was a 7 SCV lead with nothing happening because Jason was playing very conservatively. He was showing a lot of respect to his opponent, and that's the same thing that happened here. So if you get away with it, it is the kind of build that you can bust out, and you can put an opponent on tilt. Depending on who they are and depending on what your relationship is in terms of like your professional, I guess, history in terms of games against one another.
Yeah, but by the way,
it's so greedy. It's stupid greedy. Sorry, go on.
No, unrelated. Dark is currently Banely busting a Charizard opening from Classic, so that's fun. But you're right. We look at this. Although you say, I saw Thermal do it. When was the last time you saw a professional player do it in a big match or in an actual tournament? And yes, EPT Cups are actual tournaments, sure. But Thermal, he does it for the YouTube memes. He makes no bones about the fact that he's a retired player. And I don't know, Steadfast. As much as I love Jason is not GuMiho.
No, but he has beaten Clem in a professional setting before.
That's
like,
fair.
Jason, I think you're under. You're right.
I mean,
you're right.
Jason's beaten GuMiho. Like
Jason's beaten Dark. He's taken maps off of Dark. Now, granted, once again, these are weeklies. But like the skill level is absolutely there. Even if in terms of class, we would not put him at the level of an actual GSL top 4 level player. But like, I do want to say that there's something to it. There's definitely some substance there.
Yeah, that's fair. But again, I don't know, doing it for the memes versus doing it in.
Oh yeah, no, doing
single,
it's absolutely wild.
Especially when we talk about it's not a single elimination tournament, but it kind of is, right? Where you don't win this match, you immediately go down to the knockout stage. You win it, you lose it. Like it's not single elim. You don't leave the tournament, but your life becomes so much harder if you don't win your first match here in the group bracket stage, the winners group, as I think we're calling it. So for now, I mean, for GuMiho to have the cojones to do that one is just really crazy. So we're gonna have Ancient Cistern though. It's gonna be map number 2, and Steadfast, you want to see if he does it again?
Oh, there's no way. There's no way, but I would be so here for it if he did.
All right. Well, for now, it seems like that's not happening. His opponent in the upper right in the blue looking to take us to game 3. GuMiho.
And his opponent spawning down in the bottom left with the build of all builds for Team Abydos. It is Cure. And I will say, if you were ever to do it again in your professional career, doing it back to back would actually be the most Giga Chad move.
Oh, absolutely.
Of all time. And it would actually make a certain kind of sense because it's such an outlandishly greedy build. Like, it literally just dies if you send your first units across the map, Like, you are just going to die if that happens. Because it is so unbelievably greedy. It's not like a 1-Rax expand where you can hold against just a basic push. It will die for the first several minutes of the game. But because of that, the potential to do it twice in a row would actually make sense from a certain game theory perspective.
Oh yeah, I'm putting my, especially when you're up 1 game, I kind of thinking about that game theory. I think back to like Hero and SOS, where no one expects me to proxy 2-gate in your base 3 games in a row. Well, that's why it works. So same idea, where there's absolutely no shot that Cure would do it again, which is why it does make sense. But that's not what we have in this game. Right, it is. This was a guess first from Cure, which is a little bit different. Right, normally we do see the Barracks double gas factory. This is guess first, and that does mean that he maybe has a little bit faster tech on the way. But actually, wait, did GuMiho go gas first too?
Nope, they both went. They both went similar setup. They both went Barracks gas.
I could have sworn I saw gas go down before the Barracks. Anyway, let's disregard that. For now, though.
No. Oh.
Hey, this is nice.
Oh, this is funny. They both missed each other, and they both committed across the map. So they're both going to kill an SCV, and they're both going to go back home. A gentleman's agreement that we commit some light war crimes and go home.
Just TVT things. Yeah, just TVT
just
things.
TVT things, exactly.
And now, I mean, it's 2 Reapers versus 2 Reapers. GuMiho clearly is winning this game. He's got a Hellion faster. I mean, I'm joking, and I truly am, but having those minor advantages sometimes can make a difference. Not on Ancient Cistern, though. The map is so long that by the time you get across, unless you're committing and you say, I'm gonna build 5 Hellions or something, I'm gonna build 3 Hellions, 5 Reapers, like really commit to it, you won't have any sort of advantage there. And instead, GuMiho, he's gonna opt for the more defensive play. He's got a Cyclone on the way. He's getting ready to move into the mid game, and good news for GuMiho, he hasn't lost the game in the first 5 minutes, or at least put himself tremendously behind in the first 5 minutes.
I mean, the thing is, it's not even really like putting yourself behind. It's your opponent just doing something so wild. Now, this is funny because they're both going to delay each other's command centers now just a little bit. We are going to see, oh, that was a little bit overambitious right there from Cure. Jumps to the high ground. He does finish his command center, and GuMiho He'll finish that up in a moment. He actually stopped building the gas of the natural, but this Hellion has killed 3 SCVs. Can he get a 4th? No, not quite. Overall, I think I still like this better for GuMiho. I think, but it's such a weird, kind of funky way to go into the mid game.
Yeah, so I mean, again, when we look at TVT, it generally is a weird way to go into the mid game. Of course, with the Banshee on the way, this is going to be very feast or famine coming out of the blue Terran player. Banshee runs across, you get a lot of value. It's fantastic. You really put your opponent back on the back foot. But if it doesn't, well, then you've committed to a Banshee, and that is not a unit that is useful in the mid game. It does not gain value over time nearly in the way that a Raven does. And GuMiho is not even going to pair them up. So, maybe you keep your Banshees out and 2-shot and run in later and start to 1-shot workers, and it's useful. So he's just going to have 1 less Raven or Medivacs later, something like that. And it's all in this Banshee. It's got to find value, or GuMiho, you talk about how you like his position. Well, that's going to start to erode pretty quickly.
Yeah, now what GuMiho is going to look to do for this next stage to make this Banshee able to find some value is he's sharking around on the map with his 2 Cyclones and a few Reapers. He would love to have tried to find his opponent's Cyclone right there. Oh man, he just found a fresh mule. That was like a brand new fresh mule. I would say this Banshee is pretty much paid for itself. 3 SCVs and a brand new mule at this stage. That's pretty decent value. That's anything he gets from this point, I think, is gravy. Oh, but you do not want to lose it to the Cyclone. Oh, he's trying to bait him out. He's trying to bait him out.
Oh, do it. Oh.
You're
gonna find. Oh, there we go. Get the lock on. Actually, he's not paying attention, so it's just a free Reaper instead. I loved the idea, but not quite there.
Yeah, that would have. Oh man, and if he hadn't had the Reapers too, the Cyclone would have had to move further forward. Oh, that's so unfortunate that GuMiho wasn't paying attention right there. Really nice setup, but he's not able to convert. And to be honest, it probably isn't the biggest deal because the Banshee had already taken a lot of damage. You're still going to be having to contest with Marines. It's interesting. He actually sends it back home. He wants to repair it up. Huh. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, though, with what you're talking about, Steadfast, it does, even just killing a Cyclone like that, it unlocks something. It's a little bit less defensive power. It's going to be 1 less unit if you decide to... Oh, look at the body blocking there! GuMiho gives no scout whatsoever. Oh, you love to see it.
That was very nicely done. Very well done from GuMiho.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, it certainly was. And GuMiho, or pardon me, Cure just scanned the main. The command center was put up in the top left corner. He didn't see the 3rd CC with this. Cure's got no idea that there's a 3rd CC landing right now. Oh, this could cause him to way over defend and not actually take his base when he needs to.
Yeah, I mean, this is heavy pressure coming out. Well, I was going to say that he's moving backwards a little bit now. GuMiho was at least feinting heavy pressure, and you do have to commit to that if GuMiho sieges up your main bases. It seemed like he was interested in doing, but now, okay, there we go. There's the 3rd base. There's the scout that Cure was looking for. He might even get an SCV or 2, which is going to be fantastic. But it seems like the Marines are going to rotate over, and that's... Oh, I love it. That's only 1 Marine. Not enough damage done. So the Hellion will be able to get out here. And now, hey, couple free Cyclones. On the other side, Banshee as well. Let's see how much he... Okay, he actually only gets the Banshee for the moment. And 2 Reapers, 2 Cyclones, if they can find their way on top of maybe an unsieged tank or something later on, that's still a powerful force. GuMiho's going to be pretty happy he holds on to it.
Oh yeah, it's lovely to keep these little mid-game units. I especially the Cyclones.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Ravens are the most valuable units that you build in the early game in TVT. They're the units you want to keep alive more than anything. But of the throwaway units, it is a very clear drop-off from 1st to 2nd in terms of Raven to Cyclone, and then it's a pretty big drop-off from Cyclone to everything else. Although I do really think Cyclones are solid units to have here. And there we go. He just gets the scout on the Medivacs here. He's able to put a bit of damage into them as well. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say that like Ravens and Cyclones are not really throwaway units. They're early game units, but you do want to hold on to them as long as possible. Whereas like a Reaper or something, at a certain point, you really don't care whether you lose them or not. So for now, I mean, GuMiho is using these like Blink Stalkers. He's just running forward, gunning down a couple Marines, backing up, saying, it's like, I don't know if you have a sibling, but you know, the time in your life where you realize that no one is truly touching someone, it's electromagnetic impulse, and so you tap him, you say, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. That's what these Cyclones are doing, even as they eventually fall down. But, I mean, the Marines, that's heavy damage on the exchange.
Yeah, he baited a bunch of Marines into their death. Now we are going to see, the other side of the map. Cure does go for this push, and he gets some big tank volleys. Not the best day to be a Marine, starting things out here, but in the natural expansion, GuMiho did sneak through with a little double drop, snipes down one of his opponent's siege tanks, and he'll just get out. The Master of Chaos strikes.
Exactly. I mean, this is a heavy siege tank coming in from Cure on the right side, but the problem is GuMiho is well defended. He's set up, he's sieged, he has... his SimCity is just really nice in terms of coverage of everything that he needs to look at. Second factory getting at it in, fourth base as well, and in a marked change from last game, now it's GuMiho that is really putting himself ahead economically. That fourth base is... Cure hasn't even started his, and GuMiho's command center is done. So at this point, GuMiho doesn't even have to take his fourth just yet. Even extra mules or extra being able to build extra SCVs by itself is going to be really nice, but seems like that fourth base is on the way, or it's floating on over right now. So now, Cure, how does Cure look to respond to this? I mean, just expanding at this point doesn't quite seem like it's enough.
Most important that he doesn't panic, I think.
That's fair.
But it is going to be important that he recognizes his position and recognizes that his opponent is a little bit ahead. So he has to be a little bit more conservative with how he takes engagements. He's got to be very careful. He will move forward here on the right side with just this little marauding force, but he could get himself trapped. Interference matrices on the medevacs would catch them. But he's not going to drop them. He wants to save them. Cure, this is a really nice move. He's recognized that his opponent's army is on the left side, his whole army. Ooh, but now he's kind of hesitating a little bit. Yeah, that is not what you want to be doing. You do not want to be hesitating in TBT. GuMiho is one of the most decisive players out there.
Yeah, the problem right now is Cure realized that his fourth base was not done. Right, the command center is on the way. It's not complete, and he wants to take that fourth base. So GuMiho, by having position, by establishing position on that left side, as one Raven will go. Oh man, that's so much defensive power. But Cure realized that even if he was going to run across the map, it was not going to be easy for him to break that planetary. And he was going to lose his base in exchange. He was not going to be able to get that fourth base up. So he runs back. He takes somewhat of a bad trade, but it's not that massive. And now look at this. He's floating his way on over. He's going to try to take the 6 o'clock base. And that is not nearly as nice of a position as the 9 o'clock base that he might otherwise look for.
Yeah. We are going to see, by the way, I missed it. We actually did see one Raven getting sniped by that little drop that Cure had sent to the top side. So they're both down to just one Raven right now. They both dropped the interference matrix. This is really nice for Cure. He actually interrupts the transition into Starports, and he will kill one of them. Meanwhile, little sprint into the natural from GuMiho. Cure is going to be able to get in on top of it, but he will lose his own Raven. So now it is going to be GuMiho with 1 Raven to 0. And it just feels like in this mid game, GuMiho, I mean, he was a little bit ahead from the early game, I think. Not substantially, but a little bit. He's just been more confident in his army movements in this mid game, though.
Yeah, certainly. And now that this is bottom and extra base, yes, that drop delayed starport's fantastic. It's 5 bases on GuMiho versus 4 bases on Cure. He's actually, I think he's taking... No, he's not. That's already on location. Never mind. But now GuMiho stims on in. That one tank on the right side is worth absolutely nothing here. And Cure woefully out of position. The tanks are going to siege up, so you can't get on top of it anymore. And Cure, well, yeah, it's such a late siege. Actually, you know what? This late siege, he will be able to kind of stem the bleeding a little bit, dropping Marines on top because they've all gone down. But his tanks on the right side will fall, and the tech is shut down, is really traded actually on both sides. At the end of the day, though, GuMiho pulls himself massively ahead. Yes, it's tanks for tanks and everything else, but GuMiho, with this 5th base, with the added production he has, he finds himself up 40 army supply steadfast. Upgrades, they're faster. Everything is just so much better for the Taltaran.
Yes, that was a magnificent move from GuMiho, and I said it. I said he looked more confident in his movement. Cure had a spotter Marine that saw this, but GuMiho was like, no, you don't have a Raven. You're only going to have a couple of units in the natural. I only need to disable 1 or 2 tanks. Unless you have, 4 or 5 tanks prepared, I can just set myself up into a defensive position. He sprinted for it, he got it, and he got himself an amazing setup, amazing trade, and some good economic damage as well. And now his +3 weapons is done. His +2 vehicle weapons is done. GuMiho is in a position where he has knocked Cure off guard enough, off balance enough, that if he sprints forward, he might be able to just end the game right here. We are going to see a counterattack from Cure. Oh, that actually might find some value. GuMiho's not sieged, but he's got 1 siege tank on the left.
That he does. I mean, that's a solid trade even still. SCVs are just going to get pulled away from the base. Cure knows they can't hold on here. And now it's going to be 3-3 versus 2-2 on top of everything else. The 3rd command center, the orbital will fall. 12 workers hit the deck here as well. And that drop on the other side, it traded army for army. Really not worth talking about. Cure falls apart in the late game, and GuMiho shows us just some of the class, some of the skill that we were talking about when we say, hey, you know what? GuMiho's TVT, it can be oddball sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's just really, really solid.
Yeah. It's not just solid, it's decisive. And it was that decisiveness into the natural expansion that got him the position, that put him into a winning position in this game. And he did not flub it. Also, great stuff with the medevac drops on top of the tanks. That turned an otherwise pretty good engagement into an amazing one. And then he even closed it out on that last tank on the right side. And Cure, he was a little bit shaken up, I think, a little bit, and then GuMiho just knocked him right out. That was so well executed from the Towel Terran.
Yeah, it's fun to watch these Terrans that are really good at TVT, that they really focus on it, that work on it, because the one thing you'll notice is that they understand when to expand and when to start to take the map better than others do. And yeah, you know what? Cure took maps off Maru in the finals, and we're taking nothing against Cure's TVT in the GSL finals. Excuse me, but we saw GuMiho there. He recognized that he was in a good position, and we just saw all the commanders go down. He got his 4th base so much faster, got his 5th base. So, Cure never had the 5th base, so I'm infinitely faster. Got 6th and 7th command center on the way as well, because that moment that he realized he had that tempo lead, that he was in a good position, you start to go everywhere. You start to really speed up into the game. And now if I'm Cure and I look at how that last game went, the fact that this is Gressfont for map 3 does not spark joy.
It's interesting because there's so much to TVT at this point, but if it gets into that marine tank versus marine tank style, GuMiho looks really good today. He looks dialed in. That's not to say Cure can't compete. Absolutely not. But there are a lot of opportunities to make plays on Gressfont and TVT. And GuMiho has made, even though it's 1-1 in this series, GuMiho has made the better impact plays, the more repeatable plays, so to speak.
Yeah, that he has. And now we're going to move into the biggest map in the pool. And you see the impact plays, you see the repeatable plays. There is no better map to do it, to drag us into a 20-minute epic TVT than this map. So let's see if we get what the fans want, or maybe GuMiho has something in store for us. It's game 3. And on the bottom right, in the blue, he tied it up in game 2 and looked absolutely incredible. It's GuMiho.
And his opponent, spawning up at the top left for Team Abydos. It is the Red Terran player, Cure. And you know what? They have broken the cardinal rule of Korean TVT. They have committed a sin, and they must be punished. And that is no proxy 2 racks, not a single one in the whole series. What are we even watching?
It's TVT, so I would expect like a proxy Reaper instead. But regardless, yes, I don't even know.
Proxy 2 racks Reaper.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think of like proxy 1 racks Reaper in TV. Am I crazy? In TVT. Although I'm thinking TVP there. Never mind, you are correct. We don't see it here. And Cure is the embodiment of a Korean Terran, so I guess Korean Terrans don't do it anymore, is what I'm hearing.
They won't do it until they do it, and then they'll when you don't expect it anymore, that's when you can expect it again.
So steadfast. That's like saying, okay, well, I know what's going to happen in this game. GuMiho is going to win the game, or he's going to lose the game, or he might tie.
Exactly. That's
You're never wrong.
That's the game theory. That's how it be. But usually the Korean Terrans are a little bit predictable in that sense. Like you will almost always see a best of 3 or best of 5 in TBT, where at least one of them proxy 2-racks is at least once. But it seems as though no, they're like, okay, I don't really feel comfortable maybe with this build as much anymore, and that's pretty interesting. That is actually really interesting to me.
It might also be because of how the maps have wound up, right? Like, by the time you get to Game 3, Grespon, I mean, it is a map that you can go for Proxy Reaper, absolutely, but it's bigger. Maybe it takes a little longer to get those SCVs across the map. And Kure obviously had a game plan. Game 1, he went for the CC first. It worked out. So it feels like by the time you get to Game 3, you're almost like forced into not doing it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. It's a little bit funky, but it's the best time to do it would have been certainly in game number 1. Yeah. 100%. 100%. We are going to be seeing, by the way, I kind of wish I'd been paying a little bit closer attention to the minutia of these build orders. It can't just be that Kure SCV scouted and GuMiho didn't, because Kure is just behind, but like more so than I would have expected for that kind of setup. Like there's a 1.5 SCV lead. The command center was faster. The starport was faster. Everything was just faster for GuMiho. And I'm not exactly sure how. And it was kind of similar as game 2, but I'm certain that they both opened up barracks double gas. Like they did the same thing, but I'm not exactly sure how GuMiho is just up a worker. He didn't. I don't think he cut anything at any weird timings, but he must have somewhere.
He spent less gas, I think. Is if you look at the that's pretty clear. You look at the gas mining. What? Oh no, okay, never mind. Kure has gas mining in the natural, but GuMiho did spend less gas early on, right? He only got 2 Reapers instead of 3. He got more, I guess, mineral-heavy units, and maybe it was something to do with where he was only mining like 2 out of 3 on his refineries instead of 3 out of 3, something like that. I don't know, but regardless, you're right. He is up a worker and a half, something like that. He's got a minor army supply lead. He's building himself into a pretty solid position, but Kure, he's pulling the special build out. Double starport. This is going to be fun. Well, if he survives this pressure right now, which is, it's no sure thing.
Yeah, this is actually a little bit of an uncomfortable position. That was an amazing grenade right there from Kure. We do see the Raven coming on in. There's no way to save this Cyclone from the lockout. Oh, he just gets away. I thought that was going to be a dead Cyclone. There we go. GuMiho confirms the kill. GuMiho with a great little push right here, and he gets an extremely strong set of value plays. Unfortunately, does get the one lock on the SCV jumping into the gas, but he snipes down the Hellion, gets the kill on that one, and just gets on out. This is a successful little push from GuMiho, but he doesn't know yet about the additional gases of the natural. He doesn't know about the second starport.
Yeah, that's the big problem right now. I mean, I love this play from the Cyclones. Now that they're low, they can't do much aggressively, but they can't dive in, certainly, but they can kill a supply depot, things of that nature. But this pressure from GuMiho does need to figure out what's happening. Eventually, you get double starport. The Viking count is, we're already starting to see it massively snowball, and then this pressure from GuMiho doesn't work. The all-in starts to really find value, and it can go push me, pull you. It can shove across the map very quickly. So for now, GuMiho's got to find some way in. I don't know whether that's Raven harass, something like that. You drop Cyclone drop. He has to see the second starport.
It will be. It's really important that he does. Yeah. If he's not able to and he overstays too long, he could find himself losing everything, and then he'll have nothing at home to defend against the counterattack. Now, if GuMiho holds on his opponent's side of the map for long enough, eventually he will get stim, and he'll be in a good spot. Ooh, we did see a boost forward from the medevac, but it did get pushed away before it could see anything. At this point, though, okay, there we go. There's the scan from GuMiho. He actually doesn't see the second starport, but that's way too many Vikings for this to be anything else.
Yeah.
GuMiho. The tanks.
Okay, so now we're going to see one Raven get knocked down. The tanks get disabled here. Vikings just land onto the ground, trying to break GuMiho out. And, well, the tanks don't siege, but they don't have to Steadfast because they just want to stutter step forward, knock one tank down, get the second one. GuMiho's got to get the hell out of Dodge. And this is a great... It's a solid reveal. I was going to say it's a good scout, and it technically is, but GuMiho lost so much there that now he's looking at 2 tanks defensively against the 4 of his opponent, 1 Raven, 1 medevac against 8 Vikings. And yeah, he holds the high ground, but high ground matters less when you have that high ground, when you have these Vikings that can just dominate the sky. Raven falls, the Vikings are just going to land on top of everything, and GuMiho had such a powerful push, but Steadfast, it's fallen apart.
It has fallen apart, and he doesn't have anything to defend right now. He got a trade with the tanks 2 for 2, and he forced the Ravens to use their auto turrets, which means they won't have an interference matrix available for a little bit. One of them is on 38, make it 40 energy now. But it is still going to be a little bit, and that will buy time for GuMiho. He's got his stim done. He's getting into 1-1. He's getting into combat shields, and he's got 5 barracks producing. Oh, the Vikings are going to land, but there is stim available, and that will be a couple landed Vikings going down. However, Cure is getting into Liberators. He is reinforcing with Liberators. He's got another couple of tanks inching their way forwards. And, oh man, can GuMiho buy enough time to get out enough to crush this? I don't know.
This is rough. Now, the nice thing is you talk about the tank trades. GuMiho or Cure has been losing tanks. That does mean that this power on the ground is not quite as solid as it could otherwise be, but he's still on 3 tanks here. And it's just, we're looking for a silver lining. Now the Bio's going to run forward. The Liberators are sieged up. Landed Vikings coming from the left side. SCV is getting on top of everything here, and GuMiho seems like he's just maybe barely pushing through as the Vikings, well, they're going to get dropped on top, but actually, no, it's not going to be enough. Not at the end of the day. 19 SCVs hit the deck. Sure, those tanks are so low Steadfast, but they do everything they have to, and at this point, GuMiho, there doesn't seem to be much left.
No, he has lost way too many workers. At this point, Cure is transitioning. He's adding a 3rd command center. He's adding additional barracks. His stim is nearly done, and he has killed so many workers of his opponent. He holds the air superiority. He's going to push his opponent off the natural position, and at this point, Cure has played this out perfectly. GuMiho didn't recognize the build quickly enough. He stayed a little bit too long. We're going to see SCVs pulled, but for what? There's a drop coming in from the side. It's not going to get the job done. Cure will take the series 2-1. Very well done.